Welcome to the Brass Junkies, a podcast from the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network featuring interviews with the world's greatest brass players by two thoroughly average ones, Lance LaDuke and myself, Andrew Hitz. Today's episode features Chad Winkler of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Chad tells us about what it was like growing up and studying with a father who was a famous trumpet teacher and about how he took over 30 professional auditions before winning the job with Pittsburgh. He also talks about his approach to teaching, and his advice for our Canadian friend Jens involves his favorite hockey player. He tells us all about it next. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am one of your hosts, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by the lovely and talented Lance LaDuke. How are you doing this evening, Lance?
I'm feeling sexy. Why is that funny?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It just is.
I'm fine. I'll put my pants back on. That'll be okay.
That's the beautiful thing about being a podcast host is that generally you can do it without pants on, but not today because
there are students present.
We are actually at Duquesne University, which, in spite of the fact that Lance teaches here, is a fine institution. And there are a handful. I'm just saying, like, don't judge them on that only, because he's got something on somebody. I don't know. There was even a changing of the guard. There's like there's new leadership, and you're still here. So he's got something on like president of the university level would be my guess. So Lance does have his pants on, thankfully. So just
Lance on pants on.
LanceOnPantsOn.com. Yes.
.gov. We got
.gov.
to do
Excellent.
.gov.
Would you like to introduce our guest?
I would be honored.
Is your colleague?
Hi, colleague.
Hi, Lance.
We have a very, very special guest. We have Chad Winkler of not only Duquesne University, but of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. And let me just say right off the bat, I'm a little nervous. Most of your interviews are on Skype, right? So
that's true. I
get one shot to get it right.
Also true.
Sort of like my day job. Right?
Also true.
Yeah.
This is the first we did in the very, very beginnings. What, about a little over a year ago? We did 2 episodes. One with Victor Barranco. No, not Victor. Who did we do live?
Kevin Gibo.
Yeah.
Was that it?
And Michael Parker.
So this is only the 3rd, and the first with an actual live studio audience.
Mm-hmm.
How about, can we have a round of applause from our live studio audience? Hey,
listen to that.
That was an overwhelming response. I thought it was going to sound more like smattering.
Yeah. Golf clap.
If you laugh, that's a good thing. So you don't have to stifle some. Well, many of the sounds that you would make, you don't have to stifle. Okay, fair enough. Us too.
Yes.
So will you do us a favor and tell us how it is that you came to be the world famous Chad Winkler?
Oh, boy.
Where are you from? Let's start with that.
Well, I grew up about 70 miles south of here in Morgantown, West Virginia. We moved there when I was 4 years old.
Who's we?
Our family. We moved there mostly because, well, I guess all because my father got the trumpet professor job at West Virginia University. So
what year would this have been?
Oh boy, I think he started in 1982. That's when he started, and he's still there now.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so you have you're not the only Winkler trumpet player. There are buckets loads of you. Yes?
Yeah, there's we used to have 3. Now we're down to 2. But there were 3. My brother Jordan, who doesn't play anymore, but he played, and of course my dad kind of started the ball rolling when we were all 11, 12 years old, which is when I started playing. So
is Jordan older or younger than you?
Jordan's younger. Jordan's 4 years younger than I am.
So you're what? He's 10 and you're 14, or he's 8 and you're 12 and you're starting to play.
Exactly. Yeah.
And did you pick Did Dad tell you, here, you guys are going to play trumpets, or you went through the normal sort of band thing and picked instruments that way?
Not exactly. I mean, I like to say I was hearing great trumpet playing since before I was born. So it was always in the house, growing up. Both of my parents are professional musicians. So, I was always hearing, great trumpet playing, great piano playing in the house, listening all the time. They were to recordings of orchestral music and solo trumpet music and things like that. So I kind of had it in my ear all while I was growing up.
So when you started, did you just go through the band program, or did Dad pick you up with lessons right away?
Well,
was he already kind of... My son's 14. He's in 8th grade band. And I've tried very hard to let him do his thing. And if he asks a question, I'll answer it. Sure. But I'm trying to stay out of his way because I have a feeling if he starts to take it seriously, then our relationship will change. And so what was that like? Did he give you lessons, or did he give you feedback, or what was that?
Sure. Well, I actually, if you want to go all the way back, I started taking piano lessons when I was 4. And I actually continued serious study of piano all the way through high school. I actually competed in and won some international piano competitions. One of them that comes to mind is the Bartok Kabalevsky piano competition, and I won that when I was a teenager.
Holy cow!
Wait, what?
I had no idea.
Yeah. so I actually, I mean, I've been playing. Now I just play for fun. But I've been playing piano since I was 4. So I had that musical background growing up, for the first, 7 or 8 years of studying music. And then it was after that my dad just kind of put the cornet in my hand and said, let's see what you can do. I started off like anybody else did. We didn't really, I went to a private school through 6th grade, and then I went to public school for 7th grade, and then actually from 8th grade through high school, I was actually homeschooled, and which allowed for a great deal of musical study, and we did competitions and things like that. So it was really beneficial for me to be able to do that. But my mom actually tells a story the first year or two of that I was studying trumpet, and typically with younger students, when they first pick up the trumpet, it doesn't sound very good. And so there was one day where I was down in our basement, whacking away at Clark Studies or something like that, and it's coming through the floor, and my mom said, she looked at my dad and said, "I'm really sorry, dear. This just isn't going to work out, is it?" And so he said, give it time. It's going to be fine. And I started like anybody else did, just trying to put air through the thing, and eventually started working. So.
Holy moly, that's awesome. I know my son is an outlier in another way, which is that he has an opportunity to meet and hang out with Andrew or other quote-unquote famous brass players. Did you get to hang out with quote-unquote famous? I know all trumpet players are famous, but any especially famous that stand out? When I was young, not necessarily. I mean, certainly I was, as I said, I was hearing great trumpet music. We would come up to hear the orchestra here in Pittsburgh. So, I remember my dad taking me to a couple ITG conferences, and I was a kid and just was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Everybody here can play, and just learning a lot about it. And he kind of helped me along and give me a crash course, so to speak.
How many of those ITGs have we been stuck attending, Lance?
It's pretty fun. Well, we always do the same thing, which is to go ask trumpet players what mouthpiece they play.
Yeah, right.
Because they start to answer you before they realize that they're being messed with.
That's right.
In Banff, actually, one of my old friends, Jay Michalak, who I attended Northwestern with, who plays in the Foothills Brass up in that country north of here, and where they're really good at hockey, except for this year when none of the teams made the playoffs for the first time since 1969. But
sorry.
Yeah, sorry. But I asked him, actually, and I really sold it because he actually started to answer me, and then he realized who he was talking to, and then he started yelling at me with We'll save the producers the bleeping, but yeah, it was animated, and I was like rolling on the floor laughing because I was very proud of myself that I had tricked him into telling me what kind of a mouthpiece he was playing on today, like I gave a crap.
We'd also, the other fun thing to do is to yell out from across the room if you saw some quote-unquote famous trumpet player. Oh my gosh, there's Sean Jones! He's famous!
Right. We did that to Rex Richardson so many times that he actually started to get annoyed, but then he realized that it was encouraging us, so then he tried to ignore us, but then we kept doing it. We did it to him probably 20, 25 times.
That was awesome. Most of them on the same day. Nice. He drew the short straw that day. So you ended up going where to school, I wonder?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. For my undergraduate degree, I auditioned at two schools, the Eastman School of Music and West Virginia University, which, as I said before, is where my dad teaches. And I got into both schools, and at the time, I'd been going to a couple summer camps. When I was in high school, I went to Chautauqua. They used to have a youth orchestra for high school age students. Then
Austin, you don't have to bleep out Chautauqua. That's an actual place.
Right? Yeah,
that's not a.
It's an actual word.
Just by the way.
Right.
We should bleep out every swear word with someone saying Chautauqua.
Yeah,
right. Really quickly.
Chautauqua.
Right now it's a tuba pedal F, just boom.
Right.
But
nice.
Chautauqua would be better.
And then I went to Interlochen for the Interlochen Arts Camp for a summer, and when I was in the midst of deciding between Eastman and WVU, I had a sit-down conversation with the orchestra conductor at WVU, and he's one of my greatest musical mentors, and he said, "Chad, I know that Eastman has this offer for you, but he said if you come to WVU, we will play every major trumpet piece in the orchestra," and he meant it because we played everything, and I got to play lead on all Pictures, Mahler 5, Petrushka, Scheherazade, Pines of Rome. I mean, we covered everything.
Goodness gracious!
Yeah, and I was a little bit of a big fish in a medium-sized pond, let's say, but I got to cover the rep, and I got to play it under pressure, and I got to just do all these things, which I don't whereas at Eastman, where everybody's qualified, they kind of have to spread the wealth around, I guess you could say, but I got to play it all at WVU, so I was ready. I covered all these pieces even before I had taken my first audition. I was very, very fortunate to be able to do that.
What a gift! Holy moly, yeah, that's fantastic.
That's pretty cool. Where was your first audition?
It actually was in 1998 for second trumpet in the Wheeling Symphony Orchestra nearby.
How old would you have been?
I would have been probably almost 20 years old. My dad is the principal trumpet, and they actually had the audition right nearby here at the Benedum. My first real audition, and played real well. I didn't really have any idea what I was doing, but I knew the licks. And so I went in, advanced through the, all the way to the finals. It was me and one other guy, and I guess I played the best. So that kind of started me off, and once again playing next to my dad, and the last 2 years of my college education there, a lot of our lessons were just covering rep for upcoming concerts, and we'd sit there and we would just go through stuff. So that was a big part of my education as well.
What's your relationship with your dad like? It's very unique. I mean, what is that on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah,
either then or now.
I'm very, very proud of my dad. Not just as a trumpet player, but as how he raised me, and he actually, as I said a little bit before, I was hearing great trumpet sounds growing up. He's got the best set of ears of any musician I've ever encountered. And in fact, I always say when he's at our concerts here downtown with the orchestra, I trust his ears almost, more than anyone else when he's out there in the audience.
You mean other than Lance?
Well, of course.
And Jim Nova, of course.
And Nova, but Nova's usually sitting behind me, so
It's true. Good point.
You're right.
He's too busy trying to remember the positions.
Yeah, right.
Trigger adds what?
Yeah, exactly.
Stress.
Exactly.
Jim just got it.
Yes. Jim is in the audience, by the way.
He is,
so
yeah.
I like how I interrupted.
He just couldn't stay away.
I like how I interrupted a very sincere moment. You're talking about your dad, and I was like, actually, let's insert some jackass here. That'll be perfect. So, can you please go back to being sincere?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll try. Yeah. So lessons with my dad. People ask me about this. Lessons were always in the studio at the school. It wasn't like, down in the basement or something. They were always there. He scheduled me like he scheduled any other student. It was kind of like when I walked through the office door, he's still my dad, but he's my trumpet teacher. So, I was certainly learning a lot from him and, gaining orchestral experience on the side with the Wheeling Symphony as well.
Do you think he was harder or easier on you than your peers?
Well, I probably, like any good teacher, you kind of notice the strengths and weaknesses, and you try to make the weaknesses better, and the strengths you also hope to get better, of course. But he kind of was like, well, this is working, so let's go to something else you can't do, and okay, now that's fixed, and let's go to something else. So, he studied trumpet. His graduate work, his master's and doctoral degrees were both from Northwestern, and so he studied with Mr. Chikowitz while he was there, and so a lot of his philosophies of teaching are out of the Chikowitz mold, and so I got that, literally a face full of that growing up from my first lessons with him. So I was able to progress, to a point where I was able to, of course, win the Wheeling audition, but just say, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this for a career.
How would you compare your teaching style to his teaching style? You've been teaching here at Duquesne how long now?
This is my first year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this will be perfect then.
Yeah. I would say that they're similar. I think he's probably more gentle than I am.
You've got students awkwardly nodding.
Exactly. They're like,
no, Professor. Thank you for driving us.
No. Right. Yeah. I expect a lot of myself in lessons, I think, and so for me, pouring into students, one of the most important things about teaching is that you have to care about the person first and foremost. And so if you don't care about the person, then it's hard to build into them the get excited about their progression as a musician. Every week, every student that walks in, I'm like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Hey, remember about whatever trip or whatever they were going to do, and it's like I'm genuinely interested in their personal lives, and so I think that translates directly to just being genuinely interested in their musical lives too, and where their careers are going, and how well they're doing, and what their progression is on the instrument. That's very, very important to me. So I would say that lessons are very intense. I only get an hour with them a week, so it has to be.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and once you get to a level of being able to operate your instrument at a really high level, then the person, the human being, the life experiences is all that there is at that point. And so I think it helps to inform your approach to teaching anybody or any of ours when you actually get to know them on a human level. I'm always sure to tell my students that that none of them were there for my happiest moment. None of them are there for my saddest moment. Only one of them was there for my most angry moment ever. I'm just kidding. No, it's like I think one of them saw top 10, but never like number one. Top 5. But that's what separates the great players and the storytelling. So that's interesting that you go right for that. That's good. Have you ever been told a story about what did you do this weekend that you wish that they hadn't told you?
Yeah, I don't think I can repeat it on this thing, but it was kind of like, you did what? and
was it somebody who was in the room currently?
No, it's nobody in the room.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. No,
I was thinking maybe it was Jim.
No, no. I mean, they tell me all kinds of things. I mean, but I guess that's a good thing because they feel like they can be open enough with me to tell me anything that's going on.
Sure.
So,
It has happened that an undergrad has done a dumb thing. Speaking of which, let's so with that in mind, you're an undergrad, your dad's your teacher, you blew off practicing this week, and you got to go face him in
this
an
is
hour.
A good one. I like where this is going.
What's that like? If it, theoretically, if it happened, but I'm just saying statistically, knowing how undergrad goes, there had to have been a lesson that you thought, oh boy, this one could be interesting.
Oh boy. Let's see. I'm sure there were lessons like that. I remember once, waking up 15 minutes before the lesson, and I was living at home. And I was basically, I got the phone call like, are you going to come to your lesson? and I was, and the thing with my dad is like, he's like not one of those that he's going to just explode. He's just like, I'm very disappointed.
Oh, the D word. That's worse than yelling.
And it's just like,
no. Can't you just beat me?
Yeah, that's why I became a dad, was so that could someday deliver that and just not yell.
Yeah, that's it. So, I'm sure there was cramming like any other class, but I like to think of myself as a good faker, but as I said, he's got the best ears I know, so I'm sure he knew.
I got to tell a story about when I was at Northwestern my sophomore year. I had a 9 a.m. lesson on Tuesdays, one quarter, and I was super professional like from the day I got there. I was on time certainly I wasn't on time to piano class. Well, you have to go to be on time. But I didn't beat, Van Cliburn in any competitions like you did when I was in my teens. But one night I was up way too late because it was
studying.
It was a Monday night, so
you were studying.
I was studying.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call. Yeah, score study. That's what we'll call it. I got a phone call at 9:05. From Rex, who woke me up, and I was in a deep sleep. It completely just plowed through my alarm, and I leapt to my feet, and I answered the phone, and then he very calmly, it would have been better if he'd yelled. He said, "Good morning, Andrew. Are you coming to your lesson?" I was like, "I'm so sorry, Professor," and I ran. I sprinted from getting dressed. I didn't brush my teeth. I sprinted. It was an over 5-minute walk. In 5 minutes flat, I had gotten dressed, run all the way to the School of Music, gotten my tuba out of the locker, walked the length of the School of Music, up the stairs, back up the length of the School of Music because there was a locked door. You couldn't just go straight up. Got to his office door at 9:10. I'm knocking on the door I was a sight, and I'm huffing and puffing. And I knock on the door, and he answers the door, and then he said, "Good morning, Andrew." And he said, "Have you had a chance to warm up yet today?" And he wasn't smiling, and I said, "No, sir." And he said, "Well, I think that you're going to be wasting my time, and I'll be wasting yours. So why don't you go warm up and have a great day?" And then he just very calmly closed the door in my face, and I was like, "Oh." It was terrible. It was so terrible. I just stumbled away. It was, but I was never like even 2 seconds late to a single thing ever again for him. Ever.
Learn your lesson.
Yeah, he didn't actually say the D word, but that would have even been better than what he did. Yeah, it was great. So, and I think he was chuckling. He didn't remember it a few years later when I reminded him of the story, but he was like, I don't remember that. But that's good. Yeah, he's like, I'm glad I did that. That was a good way to handle that. So thank you, Mr. Martin.
So let's fast forward. How many auditions did you end up taking before you won the Pittsburgh Symphony audition? Ballpark.
Somewhere between 30 and 40, something like that.
Over what period of time?
Well, it would have been 98 to 2008. So 98 to 2008, something like that. Yeah.
And how did you live indoors and eat food while you were doing that?
Carefully.
Yeah, right. It's like most other people, you're just maxing out credit cards, just because you realize very quickly how expensive audition taking is. And so...
imagine getting there with tubas.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The good news is that there aren't very many tuba auditions, so you actually can't get good at them. So it still costs you more money, because any tuba player that tells you they've taken 40 orchestral auditions, they're talking about like their high school orchestra, and they're talking about junior districts in 8th grade, and because you can't take 40 professional auditions.
Right.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So you just were betting on yourself all the way.
Yeah, sort of. I sort of in the back of my mind said, if I don't get a full-time job by the time I'm 30, 32, I'm just, I'm going to find something else to do. And it was something that I really loved, but I just had to be honest with myself that it was, am I chasing after something that is just not going to happen? And it was happening. I mean, I won some of those too, I mean, I didn't lose them all, but, but with anything, it was just I really wanted it bad, and for me, growing up hearing the Pittsburgh Symphony, I knew I wanted to be a part of this orchestra ever since I was a kid, and my parents were bringing me up to hear concerts.
Huh.
So let's arbitrarily say you took 30 auditions, you get to 24. Why do you go take 25? And 26 and 27 and 20. Like, what's it about? What was it that made you think I'm on the right track? I should still keep doing this.
Because I thought I could win. I mean, that's why. I remember being here in school at Duquesne and getting my master's degree here, and I got to take an audition for whatever it was, and I come back and George looked at me and said, "So how was it?" And I said, "Well, it was a really good experience." And he looked at me straight in the eye. I'll never forget it. He looked at me straight in the eye and he said, "Chad, when are you going to start taking auditions to win?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay, this is serious." And so it was at that point where I knew like something had to change, because okay, you're taking it like 1 or 2 auditions for the experience, just to kind of get your feet wet and to say like, okay, this is what I can expect, and most of them. But for me, it was this is we're not playing around here anymore. This is serious.
So what changed?
Well, certainly what had to change is that I just had to get honest with myself about my weaknesses. I had to get honest with myself about the things that I couldn't do. I had to get honest with myself that, while it's fun to, when you want a big job, there are huge sacrifices that you have to make in your, probably mostly in your own personal life. You just have to put some things on hold. I remember going to masterclass once where somebody said, just if you put those things on hold and you work your rear end off, when you win that big job, you can afford to fly whoever you want to your city to come visit you, and you can hang out and do whatever you want. So I was like, well, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense. So I just kind of put my nose to the grindstone and just worked it out. Just worked hard, really, really hard.
There's so many stories like that. When I was an undergrad at Northwestern, Chris Hall, who's the tuba player in the Metropolitan Opera, he won that audition. I think it was in 1997. But we became friends out there, but he moved from when he finished up at IU. He moved back in with his parents, and he basically lived in their basement. And I don't mean like slept there. I mean all he did all day long, every day, for a year was just practice. That was it. He didn't, and he had the opportunity to do that. He didn't have any rent to pay. He had no job. He would come out like about once a week and would come and hang out with me and some friends, probably Monday nights. It was Chris's fault that I missed my lesson.
Totally is.
I'm drawing some connections here.
Sure.
So, but yeah, it was a whole year or a year and a half. And then I remember as clear as day, like it was yesterday, I came home to my answering machine because this was before cell phones, and it was Chris saying like, I won the job, and then it would click, and it was like, holy, it was like, it was incredible. But he did exactly what you did, got brutally honest with himself and just went deep.
I actually had a friend that I said, I was preparing for some audition, and I told him, I was like, random times of the day, I just want you to call me. It was like the beginning of the cell phone age. And I said, random times, I want you to just call me, and all I want you to say is, are you practicing? Click. Just like, and then, like I would see his number on the caller ID and like, he's right, and like I didn't even need to listen to voicemail. I just knew what it was, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah.
Hey, I was at your concert last week. Are you practicing?
Right.
Judging by last week,
right.
I already know the answer, but
What period of time would you say from that sort of epiphanal moment that you had with George Vosberg, principal trumpet,
yes,
and you winning the gig?
Oh, it was probably it was probably about 4 years, 4 or 5 years, something like that. So it wasn't immediate, but I mean, I won some other regional jobs to kind of hold me over until the Pittsburgh thing came up, and so. Yeah, it was probably about 4 or 5 years.
Could you give an example of one of the areas that you felt like you had to get more honest with yourself about? You can pick any which one you want. That you thought, okay, here's an area that I need to really dive into.
And to kind of piggyback with that, I was going to ask whether it was like all playing stuff or whether some of it was how you were approaching auditions, et cetera. But
Sure. I think for me it was just being able to. Play the licks, and that sounds so easy. But when I was preparing for this Pittsburgh audition, and there were, I don't know, maybe let's call it 17 excerpts on the list, and I would practice playing it all the way down, just start from top to bottom. And my goal in my own personal practice was to get to the point where I could play all 17 excerpts and make 3 or less mistakes. And I eventually got to that point. And then when I got to the audition here, my goal was to play through whatever I had to do with, I think it was like 7 or 8 mistakes. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I got to the point, for instance, that I could play Petrushka, the ballerina dance, like 20 times in a row perfectly, like not just like kind of getting the notes, but just like being musical about it too. And I got to that point, and I was telling myself, if I could get to that point, then under pressure I probably have a pretty good chance of executing the excerpt. And that was one of the things that was on the audition, and it was 100% perfect. It was exactly how I wanted to play it. I'm a big motivational signs guy. When I was preparing for the audition, I had a couple things up on the wall. One of them was in a moment of crisis, you will not rise to the occasion, nor to your own expectations. Rather, you will default to your level of preparation and training. And
mic drop.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
So every day when I was practicing, I was looking at that sign.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. In a moment of crisis, you will not rise to the occasion, nor to your own expectations. Rather, you will default to your level of preparation and training.
That makes me want to like run through a wall right now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, but
that makes me want you to run through a wall right now too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the first sign, and then the second one says, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it says something like, every time you stay up late, every time you sleep in, every time you miss a practice session, you make it that much easier for them to beat you. So here I am. I go down every day, and I'm working in the basement of our rental place, not too far away from here in Mount Lebanon, and those are the two signs that I'm looking at. And so it was like, just, all right, here we go. This is what I want.
That's where Lance lives now, and he could actually use those signs.
I have the one with the kitty hanging on a branch that says, hang in there, Saturday's coming, with an apostrophe at the end instead of a G. It's scratch and sniff, too.
Actually, the thing that Lance is really...
Nice.
That took a second. I just had the Jim Nova delay. Yeah, that's like with the which happened once, but now we're going to make it a thing. So,
yeah.
I don't remember what I was going to say. It was making fun of Lance. That's
sure.
It's next to the Velvet Elvis picture too.
Yeah. So what we got to
we got plenty of time.
I'm keeping my eye on the clock because you actually have an evening rehearsal with the symphony tonight. What are you rehearsing?
Okay, what are we playing this week? We're playing Bernstein Chichester Psalms. We're playing La Forza Overture. We're playing O Fortuna, first movement of Carmina Burana. Emmanuel Axe is playing the Brahms Second Piano Concerto. We had a rehearsal this morning.
He's pretty good at Brahms.
Yeah, he does all right. Yeah.
He's all right. Could you have beaten him if he was at that piano competition, you think?
No.
Well,
no.
You didn't have enough signs up then, man.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
I think you could take him personally, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how has the job itself differed from, there's a kind of a phenomenon where it's in some ways infinitely more difficult to get a position than, well, I'll just say it's a different skill set to win the job than it is to do the job. Mm-hmm. And what's that transition been like? How long have you been playing with the symphony now?
I won the audition November 2008, and so I'm in my 8th official season. I actually played 2 years as a full-time substitute before winning the audition. So 8 technically, but 10 seasons early.
And so what's that transition like? You've spent so much time preparing for this thing, and now you're doing the thing. What's that like?
I think the number one thing that I have to constantly keep track of is that I'm staying ahead. We cover so much music with the orchestra of so many different genres. Obviously, mostly classical, but we do pop stuff and we do some jazz things and we do all kinds of playing. And so not only do I have to keep up with the music, I have to make sure I'm in shape. As my position is fourth utility, which, as I tell everybody, it's kind of like everything but first. And even I play principal very occasionally. But I'm either, I'm playing fourth when there's 4. Normally I'm playing third when there's 3. I play a lot of second trumpet too. So I have to be able to, play all over the horn. I need to be able to. I need high notes and low notes, so keep my own personal practice, but also keeping the music on my fingers is a big part.
Is that variety? We just talked to Tage Larsson on Saturday, and he's got your spot in the Chicago Symphony. He was talking about how much he likes playing the utility book just because the challenge is so different, and he has to keep all of the ranges available. Do you aspire to be in a principal role at some point, or you really feel like this is a way for you? This is a great fit and spot for you and your skill set.
Sure. I mean, I think that if the opportunity would ever come up, I mean, I know I can do it. Maybe, there's the trumpet player talking at me, but
I just stifled like 19 comments right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have a blowout on the drive home.
All of the trumpet players that are hearing you talk when you finally won Pittsburgh, they're disappointed that you didn't say a month beforehand I found the perfect mouthpiece, and that's what propelled me forward. The hard work crap over a long period of time. That's That's such a tired answer.
That's what we should do is start bleeping out. We should ask, like, what is your favorite mouthpiece? Oh, this one has completely changed my life. I play the ooh. That would be awesome.
Nice.
I lost 38 auditions in a row, and then I won 5 straight playing on the mouthpiece. Nope, sorry. Chautauqua mouthpiece.
Right, yeah. Nice. All right.
So, what is it like playing in the section with your former teacher?
Yeah. Well, George is, obviously he's a spectacular trumpet player. He's certainly a mentor of mine, former teacher, obviously, and now colleague. I remember the first time I stopped calling him Mr. Vosberg and started calling him George. It was kind of like fear and trepidation. Just like, George, are we going to play that short or, whatever. So, but most importantly, I would call him a friend. I've started actually coming up to Pittsburgh, studying with him occasionally, when I was in high school. My dad was obviously like, yes, go take lessons with whoever you want, And so he brought me up here probably at least once a month, at least once every 2 months to have a lesson with him. And, in the years leading up to grad school, I kind of knew that I wanted to study with him full time. And, but they're through various life events and things like that. He's been there. And, I'm very fortunate to know him on all those levels.
So when you were, how many rounds was the Pittsburgh audition?
Well, there was a preliminary round, and I was advanced to a semifinal round because, as I said, I had been playing in the orchestra, and so there was a semifinal round, and then a final round, and then a super final round, which was section playing.
Got it. Yeah. So when you started getting towards the end of that, did you have either in the between the rounds or while they were happening, did you have any problems staying in the moment? Because this is obviously it's a homecoming for you. It's 70 miles away. You grew up listening to the orchestra. That's those opportunities. If you hadn't won that audition, those opportunities it's not going to come around 6 months later.
Exactly. It was as I got closer. I think I got not necessarily. I guess I got more confident, but it was more like, hey, this could actually happen. Just relying back on, not hoping, not like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I made the finals. Like, no, I'm not here to make the finals. I'm here to win this thing. So, I made sure that I just stayed focused. I was like, if I'm this close, I can't get overtly excited about the possibilities. I have to just stay within, exactly how I had practiced. I'm not going to go further than I know, way past the line of like, what I'll really impress him if I do this. It was just like, no, just do exactly what you've been doing. And, I played for a bunch of people, obviously before the audition too. And, I remember about a week or two before the audition, the semifinals and finals were actually separated, I think, by a month or two. And I had made the finals, and I was playing for my dad and a couple other people, and it was a particularly good run of that list, as I said, playing through all the excerpts. And he was just he told me later on that, like, this is, if you play like that, you've got a really good chance to win this thing. So
that must have felt good to you.
Yeah, right. And it's funny, you mentioned Jordan before. So I play the finals, and I actually walked off stage, and I thought to myself, that was as well as I could have presented myself. And then they had announced that 2 of us made it to the superfinals, which was the section, which I felt pretty good about because I had been doing that. After they had said that I had won, Jordan was actually one of his jobs when he was living here in Pittsburgh was to be the security doorman at Heinz Hall, and he happened to be working that night. So here I am. I just found out that my life has totally changed, and I get to give my brother a hug right after. I mean, it was
Wow.
It was really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's funny that you would think that subbing like that and knowing them and all that would be a huge advantage, and it can, but it also means that they know what you can't do or what you can do 95% of the time and not 100% of the time. And because we've all got holes except for Lance, we all have some holes in our playing.
I barely play anymore.
Yeah,
so
well, there is that. But he's still hanging on to that branch, though. Yeah.
Saturday's coming.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And people bring that up because obviously I was a student at George's. I grew up here in the Pittsburgh Symphony. I studied here at Duquesne. I was subbing in the orchestra, and people were like, "Well, he's just a shoo-in, right?" I mean, and I reject that because I give much more credit to my colleagues than just giving me the job. I knew I had to play the best, and that they weren't just going to be like, "Well, he's a good fit. He's kind of a nice guy. All right, so we'll just hire him." No,
he's not horrible.
Yeah, yeah,
right. Next to
yeah. So, I mean, and even even playing for George. I mean, at some point before the audition, he said, you're a nice person. You fit in well in the section, but you're going to have to play the best, or else we're not going to give you the job. You're going to have to play better than everybody else. And I'm a believer. I'm sure other people have different ideas, but I'm a believer in saying that it's not always the most talented person that wins the audition. It's the one that works the hardest. And that's me. Maybe I was the most talented at the audition, but I guarantee that nobody worked harder than I did in the lead up to the audition. And I think that's why I won.
And that's the thing you control, right? It's
right.
how hard you work. You can't control whether you have perfect pitch or not. You can't control whether your parents were, whether your dad's a famous trumpet player or not. I mean, but you do. Everybody controls how hard they work.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So what's that like? You called Dad.
What's that? Sorry.
You called Dad to let him know. What's that conversation like?
So well, of course, as I said, my dad's the calm, cool, collected one, and my mom is just like, oh my gosh, and so I called her.
He's making fun of his mom.
And no, I would never do. Not publicly, anyway. No.
It's okay. This won't go. Yeah,
right.
I'm not even recording.
Right.
So
okay.
it's,
Good.
It's fine.
Thank goodness. So I call her and she's like, so I said, I won, and it was she. Of course, there's wild screams on the other side, and it was I as I said before, you win one of these things, your life totally changes. So
I think last question before we do some Jens bashing. Did you always want to teach at the collegiate level, or was that something that you discovered later in life that you wanted to do?
Well, it was the kind of thing where I know I have a lot to offer because I know what the hard work is that goes into getting better, I guess you could say. Getting better as a trumpet player, getting better as a musician, and so I think a lot of I think, at least, I don't know, maybe you can ask my students if I have a lot to offer, but like I think that maybe
depends on the day. Yeah.
I feel like I'm still learning things about my own playing. Things that I'm telling my students to do, and it's just like, wait a second, I should be doing that. Like why don't I sit with better posture? Why am I not practicing my articulation like that?
You're mailing it in, Winkler.
Exactly.
You're mailing it in.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I love teaching. I teach up at Slippy Rock University also. So I teach there. I teach here. At Duquesne, and it's definitely a passion of mine. Certainly growing up with it, with my mom and my dad. But I love teaching. I love instilling in kids what music is.
So speaking of teaching and sharing knowledge and wisdom, as you are probably aware, our dear friend Jens Lindemann has been going through some pretty major chop problems for a while now, right? How long has this been going on?
Well, since he was a child.
Well, since it's like
one form or another.
Permanent chop problems. So, can you maybe offer him, maybe channel your father's decades of wisdom and offer Yen some maybe a hanging cat-like slogan or something like that for
sure.
For
Jens? We have the best hockey player in the world here in Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby. So
Bobby Orr lives in Pittsburgh?
No. Sidney Crosby, the best hockey player in the world. And he, probably my suggestion to him would be to just call up Sidney because he's Canadian, Yeah. So he probably knows Sidney. I mean, everybody knows everybody up there, right?
Other, yeah.
Right. So, just call up Sidney, say, see you at center ice here at the Console Energy Center. Just let him just whack a puck right to his face. And
that's an awesome idea.
Just take a shot, right? 100-mile-an-hour puck right to the face. And, probably those high seas will probably be a little bit better.
I knew you weren't going to say have Sidney Crosby check him because he doesn't check anybody. But,
yeah, he just scores lots of goals, right?
Well, let me interject with a pun because the puck, his face, is a thing that you want to say very, very carefully.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Chautauqua.
Oh, man.
Right.
Oh, all right. We gotta save this, don't we?
Yes.
I would like to point out that in 1970-71 that Bobby Orr was a plus 124.
Okay.
Yep. Notice I didn't tell him I was a Bruins fan before the podcast started. Yeah, because it would have been awkward the whole time. So
that's right.
The Penguins are one of the hottest teams in the NHL, and the Bruins have lost 7 of 8 and are doing everything they can to just flush the whole season right down the.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So anyway, I could complain about hockey. The Canadiens have been atrocious, which is awesome. So not all is lost. But, Lance, what do you feel about the NHL season this year?
Puck the face.
All right. All right. There we go. I think on that note, we've had...
Were we supposed to do any of the Patreon or any of that stuff at the beginning?
Leave a review. Go to the Patreon.
Thank you,
page.
Patreon patrons.
Thank you.
Thank you, people who leave comments on iTunes.
Yep. Well, comments, reviews,
whatever
the kids call them these days.
Thank you, Duquesne University.
Yes. Very much.
And Jim Nova
for helping
hosting us.
Set it up. And
thank Yins guys for sitting here. Nat. Perfect.
And Jim said you're welcome. 3 Mississippi count after Lance said thank you. So, actually, we're going to do a masterclass now. Lance and I are going to do a masterclass now, and then we're going to Permane Brothers.
Do you have a website? Oh, we are going to Permane Brothers. Yep. Do you have a website or anything we can promote for you?
You can go to chadwinkler.net, and you can find me on Facebook. I friend almost everybody. And the only people I don't friend are random Romanian, whoever they are. That
hello, you. Would you like bride?
Yeah, right. Yes, right. Yeah, but
it's a picture of a guy with a beard.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I don't know who you are. So no.
If you're Romanian, don't waste his time. Yeah. If you're a real Romanian, yes. I'm sure that would be fun.
My wife would have something to say about that. Yeah,
right. Yeah. All right. Well, and if you're in Pittsburgh, come see the symphony.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Twice on
Saturday. Yeah. And don't be late for your Tuesday morning lessons. And lock yourself in your basement or your parents' basement for a year or more to win an audition. Are there any other bullet points here?
Yeah.
But probably the hard work is worth it.
Yeah.
And even if you don't win a big gig someday, it translates to every other part of your life.
Man, I wasn't prepared for him to be sincere.
No, me neither.
Sorry.
I really appreciate it. No, you put a nice bow on it. We should stop now.
We're wrapping up with fighting about hockey and
No, that was really good.
And then you brought it back. Yeah, you should be a podcaster.
That's true.
So the only problem is you're wearing pants. So,
sorry.
If you want to be pro,
should I take
it's called a callback, people.
Yeah, like you guys.
That's right. These are the comedy stylings.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, guys, Ray.
Yeah, good luck chasing Emmanuel Axe down in those piano competitions.
Yeah, right.
So, and again, thank you to Duquesne and to Jim for having us. And that will do it for another episode of the Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Austin Boyer and Buddy Deschler of the Fredericksburg Brass Institute. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.